2023 has been a year full of revelations. It's fair to say cinema is on the decline, with almost every movie being a whopping disappointment. But Godzilla Minus One is the exception. It's a wonderfully fantastic movie with likable characters, a moving story, and really good effects. And it was only made for $15 million, embarrassing modern Hollywood and putting to shame these $100 million productions. There's a valuable lesson here, not just for Hollywood or for those wanting to get into the industry, but also for regular audience members. While studio executives may not want to hear this truth, I know a vast majority of people do. Big budgets do not equate to great movies. Look, spending money is the last thing studios want to do. If they could, they would make movies for a fraction of what they do now. But they can't. They feel the need to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. Why? First things first, star power. In their minds, star power equals more money. But that means they need to spend more money to cast famous actors because of high demand. So a big portion of the budget goes into casting the actors. That's where they first begin to go wrong. I'm all for casting big likable actors, but the problem with most modern films is that they're just not good. The point is, the reliance on big name actors is handicapping films, and with that, the budget. Do you know any of the actors in Godzilla Minus One? I'm gonna assume no for almost all of you, but because the acting is so real and the story is so human, you don't care. In fact, most people don't care in general as long as the movie is good. Which leads to the second big problem, the misuse of the budget. Reshoots, rewrites, recasting, over-advertising, and poor creative choices. Disney is now notorious for this thing, especially with advertising. But the truth is, if the movie is good enough, word of mouth will be the only advertising you need. I'd be lying if I said I went to the theater on my own just to watch the new Godzilla movie. To be honest, another Godzilla film was the last thing I wanted to watch. But after hearing so much positive word of mouth, I had to go see it. In the age of the internet, where content creators can sometimes get more views on a 10-minute video than a multi-million-dollar movie, advertising should be dirt cheap. And when it comes to reshoots, rewrites, and recasting, I have a simple solution. Just write a good story. Which is much easier said than done. I won't discredit the writers, they deserve the utmost respect. But studios have seemed to lost their way. The art of story is the dominant cultural force in the world, and the art of film is the dominant medium of this. And we, as people, are naturally craving for a good story. Since the time of the cavemen, we've longed for stories. Godzilla Minus One is proof of it. So much so we're willing to ignore the language barrier just to watch it. For a Godzilla movie, you're able to relate to the down-to-earth characters. We long for the human connection, even in a huge over-the-top Godzilla film. When Godzilla vs. Kong came out and failed, it's because it didn't give us a reason to care. But Godzilla Minus One does. More recently, most Disney films fail for a similar reason. And it's not from a lack of effort. Over 35,000 scripts are registered in the Writers Guild of America every year. Hundreds of thousands of more are attempted. And Hollywood produces 400 to 500 films a year, almost one a day. But the sad truth is that out of the vast majority, only a handful are quality stories. Many writers, including myself, fall into a trap. When writing, we often neglect the audience. There's no respect anymore. Sometimes they feel the need to convince you of something, so much so that they're willing to die on that rock. But that ultimately kills the connection, and with that, creativity. Yeah, there's an influx of writers, but I feel as though the craft of writing has been neglected over the years. But thankfully, it's coming back. And audiences are realizing this too. With every new era in Hollywood, from the talkies, to the color, and to now, the CGI, it inevitably realizes spectacle isn't everything. A great story respects the audience. It cares about them. And a storyteller has the greatest power in the world to take the audience along a journey, to catch them at their most vulnerable, to make them laugh and cry. This responsibility is something to be cherished, not abused. Although a great story would take a lot more than respecting the audience, it's definitely the right place to start the bond between storyteller and said audience. Godzilla Minus One is proof that a big budget doesn't make a great film. Apparently, all you need is a good story.